everybody.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Los Angeles Couple podcast here with Dante Greco and Evie.
That's right. And today it's very exciting. We're doing our interview with the great comedian Jeremy Scippio. We've seen him live. He's very funny. He performs all over the country or even all over the world, to be quite honest.
Very exciting to have Jeremy here and get to know a little bit more about him.
That's right. So let's bring him on.
Hey,
Jeremy, how are you?
Yay,
what's going
Jeremy.
on?
Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad
It's
to
good
be
to
here.
see you here.
Good to see you here. First of all, let's talk a little bit. How did we meet Jeremy? Do you want to talk about how did we meet, like just randomly?
I would love
People
to.
will love to know that.
Yeah, we met at the world famous comedy store.
That's right. Place, a lot of comedians there.
I wanted to go to the bathroom, and I was just like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Where's the bathroom? And I was asking because I was like, ask Jeremy. I was like, would you take me to the bathroom? He accompanied me like a gentleman.
That's right.
And then I just really was, I couldn't stop laughing all the way from the line to the bathroom. Jeremy kept me entertained, and we had a good conversation and became friends.
Yeah, you guys, you had that, the look. I don't want to be rude, but it's like a touristy look where you're like a fan look in your eye. You're like, oh my God, this place. And I'm like, oh, they haven't been around long enough.
That's terrible. I'm from LA. I've lived here my entire life. It's somehow we still show up looking like tourists.
No, it's the lure of the comedy store.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a sense of respect for the store, because I remember like living in Brazil or even in Washington State before I moved here, and seeing like the importance of the comedy store in comedy, in television. So that's a place that I every time I go, even though I've been there a million times, I always feel like it's the first time, because I'm always excited to see who are the new talents, what's going on, who's gonna just pop up there, and that's that sense that's the excitement of the comedy store.
Yeah, it's the comedy store is very integral to the whole comedy genre overall. I would say it's the same effect that like Instagram had on the entire comedy community, but just from back in the day, because stand-up comedy is a newer art form, and though Comedy Store wasn't the first club to break comics, it was definitely the biggest. But comedy's big, like hip hop, where it's global now. But it's just funny that, people always, it had a resurgence a few years ago where the Comedy Store became like a museum again.
Definitely. I want to get to more about the Comedy Store, but first I want to find out, Jeremy, how did you get started with comedy? What first drew you to it and eventually gave you the courage to get up on stage, which is a lot more difficult than people give it credit for. I've tried.
That's a skill.
I'm one of those people where I guess I would say the career of a comedian was more natural to who I am versus like just being the funny guy. Because a lot of people, it'll surprise you. Like they'll be like, oh, Jeremy do comedy? You know what I'm saying? But if you see the way my mind has always worked, it's just like, oh, this makes sense as a job. There's no other employment path that I would have worked in, period. But I'll think everything. But I got started from Cincinnati, Ohio. I had decided, I went to a performing arts school, and I had decided I want to do stand-up around the age of 14. But, it's funny how when you're young, you think you have life figured out and you don't know shit. So in my brain, for some odd reason, I thought, okay, I'm going to go to school, because I went to a performing arts school I was a visual artist, and I played piano, jazz piano. So I thought I will go to school for that, like go to college for that after I graduate. And then after that, I'll start doing stand-up comedy. But anybody know, most of the greats started when they were like that age. I guess it was just fear, because I told everybody I was going to do stand-up comedy. I remember I told my high school counselor, like, cause she's like, they just try to say, what are you going to do with your career? And I said, well, I'm going to go to school for something for 4 years, and then I'm going to start stand-up comedy. And she goes, baby, it's too many stand-up comedians. And she was right.
How dare she?
Yeah.
How dare she to say that?
She's right and wrong. You know what I
She
mean?
was absolutely
there
right.
are too many, and there's too many people who shouldn't be doing it. But at the same time, as JFK said to Leonard Nimoy once, when Leonard Nimoy was a cab driver, he said, "There's always," and he had picked up JFK. He said, "There's always room for one more good one."
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm one of the ones that survived because a lot of people fell to the wayside.
yeah,
but I just,
bold.
go ahead. Sorry.
To even be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to college and then I'm gonna go be a stand-up, and just to tell people, it's hard sometimes to say, yes, I'm gonna go do something creative, because so many people say, well, that's stupid, you should just go into business, it's more of a sure thing. So I commend you.
Thank you.
That's pretty cool. And I think like Jeremy has like his own style too. Like I love I think like he has a very contagious like laugh. I don't know, like it's so funny. He's like telling a story, and then he has this very unique laugh. And I think a lot of comedians have like a unique, I mean, this sounds kind of a little bit crazy to say, I'm sorry, but a lot of comedians have their own laugh, like Seth Rogen. There is I don't know, like help me out here. Like
how long did you work on your laugh?
I'm serious. You have a great laugh. He has a great laugh. Like you notice his laugh. It's part of the act. I noticed that, Jeremy. Tell us about the laugh.
I don't know. I feel like I am the driest human being ever. So I don't know.
You know what I like about it though is because we've seen him perform. It's not like the fake laugh where he's trying to help the joke along. If you're laughing, you're legitimately laughing. Some people have that thing.
But he has a special laugh.
He has a special laugh. Laugh like this as they talk, and then it's just like, it's not funny.
I hate that I'm laughing right now as you guys are talking about my laugh.
You like a compilation of Jeremy's laughs in the video.
You have 3 special laughs in your act that you've worked on. Could you give us the first one? No. Anyways, I want to get back to your start. I've heard a lot of comics talk like, oh, I saw so-and-so, like I ever heard Joe Rogan say, I saw Richard Pryor live at the Sunset Strip, and I was like, oh my God, he's just making people laugh with talking. Like, was there some pivotal moment or something that you saw?
Who dropped your balls?
Wow. You know what? Honestly, that's a great question, because I mean, I can give you, a lot of people tend to ask who's my favorite comic, or best of all time, which those are easy questions. They're like very like Martin Lawrence is my favorite comic just because he inspired me with a TV show, and I'm a student of the game, so I like everybody you like. I've studied everybody. I mean, you got your Richard Pryor's, your George Carlin's, Bill Cosby. I know we're not allowed to say his name, but the first comic I seen perform live was actually, it's one of two, either Bert Kreischer or Tommy Davidson.
Oh, nice.
Wow, Bert.
Yeah, but that was after I had already studied comedy and whatever. But I went to the Funny Bone in my my hometown, and I was technically too young to be there. But you were allowed to be there if you took a comedy class or something, and then they let me stay for the show. And I think it's one or two. I think it was Bert Kreischer though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Funny Bone. I gotta check Funny Bone.
Yeah, and he's he was dope and just real, and this level that I didn't think was attainable at the time.
Yeah. So what's your process? Do you write your jokes? Do you just think of things and go up on stage? Like I had a conversation once with this guy, David Steinberg, who's a comedian from, back 30, 40 years ago. He was bigger, but he had a show on Showtime a few years back. So he's still kind of relevant. Anyway, he was saying, you got to just take your jokes, take your ideas, and go do them on stage and try it out there. Like this whole writing thing is not, I mean, not that he's shitting on writing, but just trying to, like, what do you do?
It's David Steinberg. That's what you said his name is?
That's right.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely right. I agree with him 1,000%. That's a real person right there. If he's still in your life, keep him around, because that a lot of people will bullshit you with the whole writing and stuff. And I can't tell you how many people are like, oh, I'm writing. Writing happens on the stage. I mean, can you write off stage to bring? Absolutely, but the entire process, you have to see how the people are going to react to it. But I'll say as a younger comic, I've been doing it a while at this point. I still got all my notebooks. I've never finished a notebook, but I always write until like I'll write to like at least like 3/4 in, and for some reason I'll just throw it to the side, crumple it up or something. But I used to write my ass off, but I realized more genuine humor comes from actual like living and experience. So when I get to certain stages in my life, I just make sure I document that and talk that out.
That's so cool. And also, like, do you use a lot of the recording in your phone, like having like voice memos and pictures or videos of yourself performing? Because I try to do that for myself. Sometimes I might just feel inspired. I'm in the car. It's like 7 p.m. I'm in the garage and I'm like, I think something funny, and I'm just recording it.
Yeah, I think that's important because so many things go into like writing is one stage, but your temperament, like what happened in your life right before you went on stage, and it plays so much a role into it. So when you listen back to the recordings, you could be like, "Oh, that was right after the breakup. Ugh, oh, that was after I had a couple of drinks. Ugh, I didn't do that well. Or I should have did it like this." But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like sometimes, especially as a road comic, I'll be wilding sometimes. So to hear my recordings, I'll just be like, "Whoa, that was a crazy one." Like one, I was just listening to one other night from like I think it was last October, November. I took this woman's engagement ring off her finger in the middle of the show, and I held it up, and I was like, "Yo, how much can I get for this?" And somebody said $40, and I was like, "Sold." But the couple was cool with it, the guy was cool with it. It was just so funny. But man, I was like, wow, I'm surprised myself with how bold I can be sometimes.
Those are those moments, yeah, when you're living in the moment.
Living in the moment.
Like acting, when you're doing improv and stuff. So the very first time that you got on stage, first of all, how many times did you actually show up to the club saying tonight's the night, and then you ended up going home because you just couldn't even get up on stage? Or the first time you were like, I'm doing it tonight, and you did it, and how did it go?
I got 3 first-time stories. I'll run through them as quick as possible. The first one, I've told it so many times, and I hate this story, but first time I ever stepped on stage as a stand-up comic was when I was, I think, 19. Was at it was a Def Comedy Jam audition located in Washington, D.C. Somebody, a friend's uncle, I believe, was a DJ for the event, and he just asked him, he goes, "Yo, you know any funny comedians?" And he goes, "Yeah, my friend Jeremy," just because I've been saying it my whole life. So, and at this point, I'd never done stand up. So, talked to my sister about it. They flew me out to DC. I auditioned, and I didn't realize that was like Def Comedy Jam audition is like the Super Bowl of stand up comedy, and yeah, just keeping it very. In the sense that every comic there had been, except for maybe me and 2 other people, have been on TV or have done something professionally in some capacity. Yeah, I was so, and they gave this big old speech. They were like, they gave this big speech like, "This is the big leagues. We don't care how long you've been doing it. If you ain't done it here, you ain't done it nowhere." Then after they gave this speech to all these professionals that I had seen on TV, they said, "Hey man, we don't care about them because we've seen them before. We believe in you. We think you're the future." I was like, "Oh, thank you." So you're going first. I was like, all right. First.
And that was great. It went great, right?
Of course it did. That's why I'm, Emmy nominated. See all the Oscars.
I don't want to torture you. I don't want to torture you, but I want you to relive that moment and the horror of it.
Oh hell no!
Get up.
Oh my god!
Are the famous? Hold on. Are the famous people sitting in the audience staring at you like the seasoned comics?
No, actually, the venue. You know, crazy. I would love. The venue was called the Zanzibar. I don't think it exists. I actually just did Washington D.C. Like 2 weeks ago. I just came from there. Got my revenge. But the venue was called. The venue's called the Zanzibar. I love I would love to do that venue today if it still exists. But it was just like a real crowd. It wasn't over dramatized. It wasn't Hollywood. It was just like a club full of people, who just, it's just like it's almost like we were interrupting them. But I guess that's how they test for talent, to see if you can handle this real crowd, then you can handle this Hollywood crowd.
Right.
But then, so yeah, a few, but not. It was obvious that I sucked. Just put it like that.
Nah, I doubt that. He's just probably being hard on himself. No, Jeremy.
No, it's the first time.
First time.
My sister reminds me every time we talk how terrible.
Oh my god. Well, I have a question. Like, talking about crowd, I heard like some comedians saying that there's some crowds that are easier than others, like depending where you are. Like people in Washington State, for example, they love like liberal jokes, but you cannot really say like you guys are kind of crazy and society is falling apart here, because they get like too like snowflakey and their butt get hurt, and some parts of the country people are a little bit more conservative. So what is like, how do you deal with the different types of like audiences that you have to perform for?
There's so many. I'm a big fan of context. So I know that's the general consensus of stand-up comedy right now, but that's not my direct experience because of the type of comic that I am. I like to play with the social fabric of a place. You know what I mean? The way I spin jokes, it tends to, I tend to draw the emotion out of you. So you can, I'm like this, like, different people can interpret something I'm saying a different way, but long as I'm running two ideas against each other, that's what tends to generate the laugh. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I might throw a little comment in there, like I say, I like to give it up for my Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, for making this happen, right? Now, if you're taking that literal, you go like, yeah, woo, which I had a crowd do that, and I'm like, yo, you guys are crazy.
Ooh, you're like, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's all to the good, because then you also have a crowd who go like, well, obviously he's being sarcastic, but that's like my humor set. That's what I got into comedy for, is that level of complexity. So, but is it true regionally people laugh at different things? Absolutely. Your crowd, you have to find your crowd amongst this craziness, people who mess with you.
But you like adjust the joke as you go to get those people like engaged, or you keep the same kind of like joke all around, and like are there modifications? Because sometimes I watch comedy specials and I see like when you see people perform in certain areas, they completely change a little bit, like how they kind of go about it. So that's I was always curious about that, actually.
Yeah, a lot of comics handle it different, because you have you going all the way from from the way Gallagher and Carrot Top handle something is not going to be the same way somebody like George Carlin or Richard Pryor handle it. So I think that's that's such a broad spectrum. I just say, for me, I mess with people who mess with me, and my people like me. You know what I mean? Like I probably change. I chop. What they call it? Code switching. I probably do a tad of that, but I speak the universal language. So even when I was performing in Scotland, people. I performed in Scotland. I performed in Thailand, right? And everybody was going like, "Whoa, did you have to switch up your language? Switch what you talked about?" I'm like, "Nah, it's just." I know the Scottish people, they wanted to talk about they want to talk about James Bond, like Idris Elba playing James Bond, and Thailand. I don't know. They just like they just like the fact that there's a black person talking ethnic. So I don't have to that much. Just. I'd say the primary goal is making sure that there's fun being had. If you're having fun,
are there any cities that you found particularly difficult to get laughs in?
I can't blame the city at this point, so no. But one of my Iowa. I haven't done comedy in Iowa, so that's fair. But one of my favorite crowds was Abilene, Texas. Oh,
really?
Me and Abilene got a score to settle.
Is that what you were like? I'm with Trump or whatever.
Or he's like, I love barbecue, and people are like, yay.
Well, no, it's just Abilene. They were so rowdy. It was it could have been a simple show, but they were like, most times it's like how you like have one heckler that's like, oh, this is nuts. They gotta get this person out of here. Like I had like about in a crowd of like 100, I probably like had like 6 hecklers. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
And, yeah, but I'm good. I don't know why. I'm kind of good at that. So I'm like taming them as they're like coming at me, and they're taking it as a challenge and getting rowdier and rowdier. But the crowd is loving it. They're loving it. And you know, like it's so random. Like this older lady, just for some reason, was like, you know, I don't know, something about like racist, and she was like, I'm black. She's like, oh, I'm not racist, I'm black. And I'm like, oh, you don't look black. I said, most people think they're Native American and they're white. And she goes, no, I'm black on the inside. And I was like,
one of those.
I don't need a 23andMe to tell that you're not black on any part of your body. And she was like, no, I got black. Can we cuss? I don't know.
Please.
Oh yeah. She said I got black pussy. And I was like, oh, that's disgusting. And then anyway, it's so many things that happen. But yeah, so I tamed that, crowd's going crazy, and then some guy decides to come up. It's a lie. He tried to come up and touch me, and that's when stuff got real. But
was this a comedy club? Was this an actual comedy club?
It's to be fair, it's a winery. But they're I mean, but it was honestly like somebody could experience that, say they were a bad crowd. I had fun. I love Abilene, but yeah, we have a score to settle because I want to destroy Abilene.
I believe the woman was Rachel Dolezal. Is that?
It was fun.
Do you know any comics? You know, I don't want to put this on you, but do any comics ever like deal with a heckler and then come backstage like, I'm gonna go wait in the parking lot for that guy and I'm gonna fuck him up?
Are you kidding?
Okay, I've been around a while, so I've seen just about a little of everything. But I say that's not common. I'll just say that has that happened? Yeah, but that's just like I don't know if your homie I don't know if your homie just got his ass whooped and he like, oh, I'm gonna go kill him, like, or you can just take the L, bro. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. You live to fight another day. But it's not. I'll say these things are not common. Honestly, most comedy shows are super dope, and everybody has fun. And even if you're dealing with a heckler, I tell you, I deal with a lot of hecklers, and I don't want to encourage heckling, but it still tends to be a good time. Like I don't have bad time.
So comics are able to leave the stage and just forget about the heckler. You don't take it back after the show with you and like let it bother you.
You shouldn't. Do comics take it personally? Absolutely, but you shouldn't. You should. I say the worst heckle experience I had, but you could tell it's a battle of insecurity, but you could tell when somebody when it just goes too far, and that's on you. You know what I mean? On you, the individual, from the heckler to the comic. There was this club called Spotlight Comedy Club. It's no longer here in LA, but it exists. This comic. The show wasn't the best show, but it was okay. You know what I mean? Everybody was getting through. Everybody was having a good time. There was just one rowdy table. It was this lady's birthday, right? So she's screaming through every comic, whatever. By the 4th comic, right, he goes on stage, and the host brings him up. He goes, I think he said, yeah, the lady yells. He tells the lady, shut up. He goes, shut up. You're going to learn how to, he said, you're going to learn how to show some respect when a real comic steps on the stage, right?
Ooh.
So in that one breath, he isolated himself.
Yeah.
Not only from the crowd, but from the comics who are, we're a team. You know what I mean? So at that point, she was like, fuck you. And, the host could have intervened, but he was like, no, I'm going to let him drown. When the lady was like, oh, fuck you, he's like, no, go fuck yourself, lady, blah, 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 right? So this guy stood up. He goes, I'm going to whoop your ass. And he goes,
ooh.
He goes, oh, what, is that your wife? He goes, no, that's my mother.
Who brings their oh my god, every time a dude brings their mom to the comedy store, there's something wrong with them. Those guys are, I mean, it's okay, take your mom for lunch or for brunch, but you take your mom to as a date and like a night. It was not that.
There's
always some weird guy with their mom. Like, I'm like,
no, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. He didn't do anything. The guy was right. He didn't say anything the whole show. He didn't bring her. It was her birthday. You know what I mean? It was her birthday. She brought him. The only time he said something is when the comic on stage said, "Yo, shut the fuck up. Yo, if you, I don't care who you are. You say shut the fuck up to my mama, I'm gonna stand up and fight you too." You know what I'm saying?
You can't lose the veneer that, like, you know, you're the comic, you're quick-witted, you're funny. It blows the illusion for the rest of us if we see you actually getting upset.
There it is.
That's the Will Smith thing that people do, like that, but blow out the fourth wall kind of in a way, right? Like when it just kind of like, it's like I get affected. And
speaking of Will Smith, just real quick, I saw that Chris Rock at his show said that he doesn't want to host the Oscars, or he turned down the invite to host next year's Oscars. Do you think he should have just taken that? I mean, come on, that would be fantastic.
It depends on what he's going through emotionally, because both Chris Rock and Will Smith are technically at the stage in their career where they don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I feel like this Hollywood game is so intense on you emotionally, just like an NFL player or NBA player. You know, if you play, you know, people be hard on these guys when it's like, yo, you're putting all this damage on your body. Yo, if you gave the game 5 years, you should be able to retire peacefully. And don't nobody say like, oh, I need another Heisman out of you. I need another trophy. I need another ring. You know what I'm saying? I feel the same way about both Will Smith and Chris Rock. They don't owe nobody nothing, man. So
I gotta be honest, though. I think that Chris has waited a little too long to talk about the slap. He said, I'll talk about it when I'm ready or when I get a big check. It's been several months. You know, a lot of crazy shit has happened in the world since then. I don't think it's going to have the same impact as it would have when he finally decides to sit down and talk about it.
It will. You know, because the way our media spins, it's a better headline later, if anything. Look at the storm in the Capitol, the January 6th thing. That happened 2 years ago, and it came back up in the news, and it's still the biggest thing in news. So that was a world news event. So it'll always be relevant, just like 9/11. I mean, not to compare them.
You're right. But at the end of the day, 9/11. You're right.
That's a pop culture clash. You know, that's like celebrity deathmatch. That's like, man, I would love to see Joan Rivers fight Oprah Winfrey. I would like to see, or Kim Kardashian fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's like, what if it happened 10 years after? That's Godzilla versus King Kong. That's, you know, whatever. So it's fine.
Right. So we cut you off by accident. You took us through your first experience on stage, and then you said you had 2 more first times.
Ooh, comebacks.
Callback.
So after the first one, I didn't get back on stage until for like 2 years. There was a Jimmy Kimmel comedy competition where they would go around to different colleges and have them, you know, they had stand-up competitions. But this one, actually, the people were not professional stand-up comedians. So, or you could have been, as long as you didn't have a name or you didn't, you know, go around and travel. It's just like, you know, literally, you know, local talent. So I got second place in that one. And it's funny. The person who judged it is this guy named Vargas Mason, who I'm really good friends with right now, since I moved to LA. And he told me that he actually didn't give me number 1 because he felt like I had done comedy before. He's like, dude, he said, I would have gave you number 1, but you obviously done this before. I didn't feel like it was right. And I was like, not really. I mean, I didn't want to talk about the Def Jam thing. But then that's where I got my courage up from. That's why I started to take it more seriously. Then, you know, I went to the Funny Bone in my local city, Cincinnati, Ohio, cut my teeth there, got a group together. And then I moved to LA, where I have to credit myself as an LA comic more than a Cincinnati, Ohio comic, because the team of people that I got cool with, they cut their teeth in Cincinnati. And Cincinnati actually has a thriving comedy scene where you can develop, naturally be a great comic. But I kind of jumped the curve by going straight to LA. So
how many years did you work on comedy in Cincinnati before you went to LA?
Barely a year, not even. Because I visited I put like this. I started comedy in Cincinnati. I went up in a couple local places, like really, really hood places, because I wasn't allowed to necessarily go up at the club yet. So I went up with the, just the hood local places, and then I visited LA, and I did a couple open mics in LA, and then that's where I kind of found myself, and like that's where I was like, oh, I'm a real comedian. I'm not a guy trying comedy. I do stand up comedy now, and then I went back to Cincinnati, and develop more. Then I moved to LA after that. So you talk about the span of April to August. By August, I consider myself a real stand-up comic.
That's amazing.
Have any famous comics given you any good advice on writing or performing or anything like that?
That's a great question. Comics tend to share more life advice than writing advice. And the reason why is because when you're only time you're getting like writing advice from comics is if you like bomb or do terrible. You know what I mean? if you do great, people be like, hey man, keep going, But I say the older comics, man, I wish I could remember this guy's name. He passed away, but he just told me, man, keep living. The best comedy comes from life, and you're just young.
Wow. He said great advice. That's beautiful.
It's too bad that the guy passed away after telling you to keep living, and that was his advice. He didn't.
I mean, it was years later. Todd Lynn, that's the name. Todd Lynn. Oh, okay. And my mother, she would watch somebody on TV, and she'd be like, "Oh, you need to get to know them," just because they were on TV. But she was actually right about that. He was a great guy.
That's awesome.
Well, I know that Jeremy told me before that he opened for Chappelle. You worked with Chappelle before. How was the experience working with Chappelle? Because I had a couple interesting stories about meeting Chappelle accidentally, but I would love to hear a little bit more about how is to work with the guy. Like he seems like his comedy comes within his mind. Like it doesn't feel like he really writes down a lot of things and work and develops. It sounds almost like conversational comedy. Is there a different category for Chappelle compared to the other comedians that look at their phones or have their notes? And what's up with those comedians with their notes? Like I mean, I'm sick and tired of seeing Anthony Jeselnik with a piece of paper, and I'm like, can you memorize that already? It's just like,
once again, context is so important because everybody goes through different phases and stages of life. So, you can't, I knowing what I know now, I can't boil anybody down to one style or strategy. Like, I'm sure Dave Chappelle has written and probably still writes. I mean, I also would guess that he doesn't because a lot of his stuff is very pop culture. And, you talk about a guy who's lived, when you're younger, you're mostly writing. You tend to write more because you're trying to find the funny. They're just like we talk about with Ty Lin, and and it's like I said, context is so much because a lot of black comics don't necessarily write they'll simplify it as just being real. You know what I mean?
He's preaching. Almost feels like he's preaching something. I noticed that especially with like black comics. It feels like in a way that just comes with their soul. It comes with their soul. It's like they're preaching. They have some type of prep, like some bullet points probably, but they kind of just let it flourish in the stage. And it sounds very organic when Chappelle is talking. He's a very good conversational comic. So
yeah. I just don't want to discredit the people who write. I mean, because it's all of it. It's just like songwriting, right? Like, you have people who are making millions of dollars off songwriting and they don't write down words. I don't mean they're not writing per se. It's just your process is your process, and your process could change several times over a lifetime. But with Chappelle, I would hate to even compare him to your average comic just because he's in a class of, he's in a legendary class. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely fine. I don't want to, like I said, I definitely feel like he's definitely one of my favorites, and I definitely give him the credit of a GOAT. I mean, you talk about, if you say Google who's the best comedian of all time, either Richard Pryor's going to pop up or Dave Chappelle, I believe, So that is a correct answer. But I wouldn't compare him to most comics just because he's above. If you go out there saying I'm going to do what Chappelle does, you're gonna fall flat because you don't have the legacy behind you to back up what he is.
Yeah, let me ask you.
Did he give you an advice or something? Like just before, sorry interrupting, but he give you any personal advice?
Oh, when you were performing with him, does he say anything to you? Or
does it come to like, hey, young Jeremy, young
man? No, and I'll say the reason why is because he's like an oracle where he's just constantly spitting out good stuff, you know. You can call it advice too, but it's sometimes just good conversation. You know what I mean? It's good words to live by. I met him back in 2011 first, and then, you know, over the course of years and, you know, different. I didn't open up for him. I only opened up for him one time. I'm very specific about it because I don't like when people go like, "Oh, this is Dave Chappelle's opener." I'm like, "Shh, no, you're gonna get me in trouble." I opened up for him one time in 2016. I did curate that, but that was how it was by. He used to do this show called The Process, and he would just put on like the hottest comics that were his friends. You know, like it was when he was gearing up to put something out at the time, and he put on like Donnell Rollins and, you know, Dion Cole, like everybody he messed with that was like close by. And what gave me the courage to ask him was I saw Arsenio Hall grow up, and I love Arsenio Hall, but he wasn't hitting. And in my brain, I was like, well, I can do better than that. Like, I know if I go up there, I would kill. So I asked him, I saw him at the store, and I was like, hey, Dave, you know, after he performed, I was like, hey, Dave, I would love. And I waited until our relationship was to a certain level where I felt like he was going to say yes. I didn't just, comics don't go up and run up on Dave Chappelle and ask to open up for him. You're probably going to get your feelings hurt. I've seen him turn down.
You got to have a face slap.
Wow. But I've seen him turn down pictures. I've seen him turn down stuff. I've seen him shut people down. So, you know, timing is everything. But yeah. I just walked up to him. I was like, hey, Dave, can I do your next Process show? And he was like, this is exactly what he said. He goes, man, yeah. He said, I just got to find out whenever Chris is coming. He said, yeah, whenever. He said, I got to talk to Chris and see when he wants to do it. And then, yeah, we'll definitely have you on. It's going to be dope.
Chris Rock?
Exactly. But
that's
notice,
Chris. Okay.
Right.
What are you talking about? Chris Rock. Okay.
But see, but see how casual he said it, right? Of course, I wanted to ask, but I didn't want to like come off as like green. I was just like, yeah. I act like it was regular. So then he told me to hit his assistant. I'm about to throw his assistant under the bus. He told me to hit his assistant, and I exchanged numbers with him. And then afterwards, he would never hit me back. He just wouldn't do it, no matter what. He only text me when Dave's there. When Dave wasn't around, he wouldn't text me. So then,
ghosted.
You're right. So I threw it out of my mind. I was like, man, it's not gonna happen. And then I was at the store in the smoking section, and Dave was just me and Dave. And Dave goes, so I'm gonna see you Thursday. And I was like, yeah. He's like, man, great. So then
you're like, it's my grandpa's funeral. Well, never mind, I'll be there.
Come on. I'm texting him. He didn't even give me no context. I'm texting the dude, still nothing, right? So I almost decided not to go because I'm just like, I don't want to get turned away. Somebody encouraged me to go anyway. I get up there and pretty much, yeah.
Who said that to you? Who said that to you? A friend?
Yeah, just a friend, just a comic friend. This guy, I give him a shout. His name's Johnny Mitchell. He was just like, he just said, man, if Dave said I could perform, he said I would follow him around for a week. So I went up there. They threw me right up. This is the best lineup I've ever been a part of. It was me, this guy. It was me, Ashley Barnhill, Tony Hinchcliffe, Hannibal Buress, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle. So that was the lineup.
That's as good as your first time on stage at the Def Jam thing.
Wow.
No. I killed this time. That was embarrassing.
That's insane.
And when you walked off, did Dave give you give you a handshake, like anything, or?
Absolutely. I'd tell you one of the dopest things was obviously there's a lot of industry there. So, all these like big wigs, Live Nation people was just kind of, on me. And then Dave, he just was like, man, he goes, how'd it feel? And I was like, it felt great. And he was like, man, you look good up there. And that was pretty much it. We kicked it. We kicked it after. Dave parties is always dope. So, yeah, man. It was fun.
Dave's assistant said, get the fuck, don't ever contact us again.
Nah, he's cool, man. He just played defense, man. That's his job. You know what I mean?
No, you have to. With a guy, with a star that big, like there's always people trying to be like, Dave told me to do something,
But he introduced. It was funny. Dave literally was like, "Yo, this guy Get his number. You need anything, hit him up, and then nothing. I'm gonna have my assistant do the same thing to everybody one day.
Yeah, I remember when I was at TMZ and I tried to interview Dave. He was always cool. Sometimes he would do interviews, but like never with me. A couple times I got him, and he was really cool. Just like, oh, you want to Harvey's guys? Like, no, I'm saving it all for the stage. You know, like it was a nice deflection, but cool just to talk to him anyway.
My interaction with Dave Chappelle was funny. I was getting out of actors meetup outside the parlor, and he was performing. It was in 2017. It was in 2017. And then
something about that year.
No, I don't know. It's just like every rap starts with like it was in 1996. But anyway, yeah, 2017. And I was walking out of the podcast, and it was like a podcast meetup for actors back in the day when I was trying to be an actress. And he stopped the show, and then he started waving at me. Like, and then I was just like, who's that? I couldn't barely see. It was like hard to see from the outside. Inside was slightly like kind of foggy. So I was like looking, I was like, who's that? And he's like, then he just literally opens the door and says, come in your friends. And I just met those people, by the way. And he put chairs and we watched the show right in front row there. He was so high as a kite. And at the time, I'll confess, I didn't know who he was. And he knew that I didn't know who he was because I was just like, who's that?
That's got to be a breath of fresh air for somebody like him, though.
Yeah, and then he never forgot that. That was like a whole year. I went to the Comedy Store a couple times that he was there, and he was like, "Oh, that's the girl that didn't know who I am. You keep me humble, keep me humble." And I was just because I was just like, "Sorry, Dave, I'm Brazilian. Like, I lived in Washington. I don't know, but now I know you're the GOAT. Like, I'm sorry." And now I'm like the hugest fan. Like, but at the time, it was so embarrassing, and everybody and. I don't know. I felt very embarrassed. I didn't know who he was, but he stopped the show, and it was so weird too. I was just like, "What is he talking about? Is he talking about me there? What's going on?" I never know what was the conversation before I entered the room, but they're all observing.
Yeah,
I don't know what was going on there. Were you there? You're like, no, not that one.
Not that one. Yeah. He performs a lot in LA, so yeah. I'm honestly, I'm at the point where. Like if I found Dave Chappelle's performing, I'm like, I might go home tonight. It just depends on what's going on.
Yeah. So just I don't want to stay on Chappelle, but just with his style, you know, because he is at such an elite level, he comments and makes jokes about like larger issues that really resonate with our society and culture. And there's this whole debate right now. Are comedians the modern day philosophers? You know, some people use that as a pejorative. Some people are enthusiastic about. What do you think? And also, do you personally try to come up with your ideas with like a larger point, larger purpose to them?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that statement, I do agree with the statement as far as comedians being modern day philosophers. But I don't feel like that's comedians' job. You know, I just think that we just have the most freedom of speech, despite what a lot of comics feel like, you know, just as far as leadership positions in our country and our culture, you know, we just kind of have, you know, because you talk about, okay, you got politicians. I feel like if you did a census, you know, or a poll the entire country, or do you trust politicians? The overwhelming answer would be no. You talk about 70 to 80% people just say no straight up. You talk about, you know, religious leaders, you know, teachers, pastors, whatever, you know, priests, people are going to say, no, we don't trust these people, even though they go to these religious affiliations, nonprofit institutions, doctors. People probably take the word of a comedian, ironically, way more serious and way more personal than they would any of these other categories. So that's, in that way, I agree with that. But, as far as them needing to do that, and is that the most responsible thing to do? Absolutely not to me, because at the end of the day, comedians are entertainers. And as long as you understand, it's almost be a waiver you sign when you walk to a comedy club. Like, hey, you understand that the things that are being said on this stage are meant for entertainment, whether you agree or disagree. The concept of this thing is to encourage entertainment. So
yeah. So like
it will make them not understand that before coming to the Oscars.
Right.
Tons of people Do not
Tons
get
of people don't understand. No, but let me say something. I want to say my answer to that. I agree. I agree with Jeremy here. I think that entertainers are here to entertain. They're gonna say things that are politically charged to get a reaction of people, and it's part of the show. But in one way, I think that what comedians bring to the table, that the philosophy aspect is like, comedians bring it up like very serious social issues, but with the comedic light, and makes you see the other side in a way that you probably would not really understand if you were just watching your news or reading the news. And I think that the modern philosopher is because you guys like comedians kind of like digest things in a way, like in a way that's like, but have you ever thought about this way? Have you ever thought about that problem that way? And makes you think about your own beliefs. That you're like, okay, I guess I think about that a little bit different now. And that's why I think it comes across, because it changes a little bit. Not that it changes what you think, but it changes a little bit how you see things.
Yeah, I'm one of those type of comedians, you know, I really am. And I'm saying that that's not our job. And I don't think people should, like, I am a type of comic where I have these things I want to say. I want you to see the other side. I'm very I'm prophetic in a way. There's things where I wish that it's like I said it and then it happened and then people go, wow, you're so smart and deep. But even with that being said, that's not the job. That's not the requirement. The requirement is to make people laugh.
Jeremy, do you think if Hitler had just been to the right comedy show that maybe he wouldn't have gone the route that he went?
I feel like everything happens for a reason, and he was destined. All the multiverse versions of Hitler were destined to be as dark as he was.
All right, TMZ. TMZ doesn't leave. No, the guy leaves TMZ, but TMZ doesn't leave the guy.
That was a great question. I'm media trained, so that works out. I know how to.
Why don't we just go kill baby Hitler? Well, how about if baby Hitler or juvenile Hitler saw the right comedian? What if he saw Hannah Gadsby and then it changed his whole perspective?
I think he's just a frustrated artist. Like, he was a terrible painter, and then people just didn't really. People like, you can't be a painter, and then you took his artistic endeavors away.
It was kind of a joke. I don't actually.
No, it was a great question. And look, if you've seen Terminator, Judgment Day can be delayed, but it was always meant to happen.
That's true. That's true. Just a few more questions. I don't want to keep you all day.
We almost watched Terminator yesterday. Remember, like, how much we bounced on top of it?
It's a great. By the way, it is one of the few movies, Jurassic Park being the other, that still holds up CGI wise from the early '90s. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Hey, watch Terminator 1. Watch Terminator 2. Then erase your brain and start over 1 and 2. Whatever you do, don't go further. There's no point. It's just no point. Watch iRobot, watch The Matrix, but do not, whatever you do, watch 3. What are the other ones?
Terminator Salvation.
Whatever
you do. Are there any trends in comedy right now that you think are like, I don't really like where that's going, or trends that you do like? Like, tell like, where's the world of comedy going, Jeremy?
I say trends. Honestly, this is my opinion. If people don't agree with me, don't agree with me. I think some things become hacked as a byproduct. Complaining about woke culture at this point is a hack premise. Like, just let it go, man. Like, it's just let it go. Just move on. The world has changed. I'll say after 5 years, if you're saying the same thing, guess what? It's a whole different world now. There's nothing you can do about it. This is the new status quo. So that term woke at this point is dead. Like, I adapted. I like it. I like the challenge of it's just like it's like musical chairs. It's like, it's only fun when somebody gets eliminated, and then so now I can't say this word. Okay, it's spicy now. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's it's a glass half empty way of looking at it. Trends I like. I feel like the nerds have won the war. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is, what was considered alt comedy is now mainstream comedy. So it's making people get more creative about how they put out stuff. For older comics and newer comics. It's not about
like what platforms they put it out through, or
platforms, or even pushing the limits of what's considered comedy. People being more honest about their opinions. It's just I think it's a good time for experimentation. You know what I mean? We don't have to wait for HBO or Netflix and stuff like that. It's like, I think, I'm just throwing it out there. Like if somebody decided to do a TMZ special, like their interview is used as a, you know what I mean? Like that's more dynamic at this point than just going the traditional route. So, I like that.
One other thing. When you have you ever like done a joke and then you came off stage and some comic was like, you personally offended me with that joke?
Yeah.
They say that? Like
no,
a
comedian, a professional.
Because it's weird. The couple times when I have tried stand up and I've said something that, was risque, you can you feel uncomfortable. I'm sure the more you do it, you burn through that feeling. But like for me, I feel uncomfortable. But so tell me about that experience when someone you don't have to name the person, but like how awkward is that and how often does that happen?
Yeah, man. Eddie Murphy was really offended when I said, no, I'm kidding.
Dave Chappelle's
assistant. Yabba
No, yeah, I mean, look, man, this is a freedom of speech art form. So, people are allowed to have their different opinions. I mean, I've been offended by stuff people said on stage. I just say that the medium is important. So the fact that you said it on stage, to me, I still understand the context, man. If I could push anything to the world, assess the context of everything. It matters the most. If you say things out of context or take it out of context, then that changes everything. That means you can't then vilify them in this way. That don't mean they can't be vilified. I don't mean everything you say on stage is correct, but we can handle it accordingly. You know what I mean? You can't apply a cover-all strategy to things that are said. But with that being said, just thinking of one situation, just because people are in their feelings or, what's they're going on in their personal life. I mean, I have a joke now I do where I say, I'm a cisgender black man and my pronouns are that nigga, right? It's not even the most creative joke of mine, but it's just first thing that came to my head, so I push it and it hits, right? I had somebody come to me and go, well, Jeremy, cisgender doesn't mean it doesn't mean doesn't say whether you're gay or straight or whatever, and I just like, yeah, man, you're right, and then it's a joke, and but it's just the current conversation right now, and I appreciate when somebody has that conversation with me, you know what I mean? Like it's a conversation. That's where it needs to stay. You know what I mean? And technically it's a private conversation, so I shouldn't even say it here. But
that's exactly where you should share.
We're brothers, man. We're brothers.
That was Bobby Lee that came up to you and lectured you on cisgender.
No, man, and even to me that is part of the writing process, is on how differently it affects different types of people. I have a better one than that. I had a really good friend coming to me after I said a joke. And said directly, he said, hey, I was really offended by something you said. And he goes, I thought you were smarter than that. Right. And no lie. I literally considered it. I went home, I thought about it. And I was like, you know what? No, it was, man, I write a lot of jokes. I don't get, like, man, if I lose a joke, it's my life. I'm not tied to one joke personally in one way, shape, or form. But I told him after that, like after like I think a month or two after I seen him, I was like, hey man, thought about what you said, and I thought your friendship is more important to me than that joke, right? And then he goes, you know what? I just realized that I was just being a little bitch that day, and I was going through something. It had nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? So
good. I'm glad to hear that. Did you keep the joke in your act?
No, I literally, it just wasn't important to me. It wasn't, there's things that are closer to my heart and things that aren't, and it wasn't.
Any chance you want to share it now?
No.
No. I have a question. So Jeremy, I have a question. So this is a Los Angeles couples part of the podcast. So
Hey.
what is like the Los Angeles thing that was like the biggest cultural shock with compared to Ohio, and how you embrace your inner Los Angeles person?
Culture shock. You know what's funny is that I actually was thinking about this other day. Something so basic. Watching two men walk down the street holding hands like this. Okay. I've never seen that before in my entire life before I moved to LA. But you know, it's funny seeing plenty of transgender people. You know, so it's just weird. You know, different regions, different things are the norm. That has nothing to do with my opinion on it. It's just the one thing I noticed. I was like, man, that's crazy to see just two guys like this. You know what I mean? Hand in hand. You know, it's just something I really didn't think of. But yeah, I mean, I rep LA now in a sense of, you know, I eat LA food and, you know, I guess In-N-Out Burger and, you know, Pink's and, you know, Roscoe's and, you know, I'm Hollywood. You know, when people be talking about Hollywood people, I'm like, well, that's me. Like, I might not return a call or a text until 2 months later, or I might I go to all these big Hollywood events with all these celebrities, and you know, if you talk to me, you say, they go, man, how you been, man? I'll be like, oh man, you know, my career isn't going so well, but you know, I booked this and I'm performing here, and they're like, no, how are you doing? You know, that's like a very LA
like you open your calendar. You're like, well, I'm performing Thursday and Friday, and then on Sunday.
I booked something.
But that's how people talk in my circle. So you know, you get trapped in that to the point where you know it takes somebody doubling down. Like, no, I'm saying how's your personal life? You know, and I go, oh, okay. You know, I can open up now.
I got to be honest, as an LA person, I love how fake it is. I don't always want to get into it, either how my life is going or how someone else's life is going. Sometimes you don't really want to know the answer. You just want to hear like what good stuff has happened to you or you done lately, and that's it.
You're right. This is you know what's funny is that people take networking versus friendships, right? Like people network so hard that meanwhile you'd be like, how you doing? You'd be like, I saw you booked this, you did that, and then you start talking about like, yeah, man, you know, I booked this thing, and they'd be like,
yeah.
Who directed? Who's the casting producer?
Can you put me in contact with him? That's all they want.
I'm like, okay.
That's so about the Los Angeles thing. I'm asking because like I said, I'm Brazilian, and there's like so much like cultural, and I lived in Washington State, and it's such a cultural shock for me, the amount of how people like work out and they like eat healthy, and it's really impacted me in a positive way. Like now my coffee is an oat latte. I like avocado toast. I used to like avocado toast. I don't even eat the toast anymore. I just eat the avocado. It completely changed me into some kind of LA monster, and but I enjoy it. I feel better now. I do like the fake positivity, but I don't like how people here are flaky. People in LA, they're like, oh, let's hang out sometime. That means I'm never going to see you again. It means
man, I am guilty. But when I say it, I mean it, though. I don't not mean it. It's just.
Oh, yeah. You're here. You made it. You still have the good character. Like, look at that. He's here.
No, man, I'm trying to tell you, if you looked at my text messages, man, it's like, whew, I'm sorry. I will get to you guys. I apologize.
Honestly, though, we don't need to apologize. It's the people who expect that you're going to do what you say who have the real problem. In LA, if you're living in LA, that's just like part of what it is to live here.
It feels like you live in a different country if you live in a different neighborhood too. Like your friends move out of the neighborhood, you're never going to see them again. Like most likely, you're just going to like their Insta stories. And that's it. That's how it's gonna be.
Exactly. Every now and then I'll hit a day where I'm like, man, who did I say I was gonna hang out with? Now you hit them, and you know, because I'll be honest, I have a lot of friends pass recently, like a lot of friends, way more than I ever respect comics. So it kind of made me go like, all right, well, if I can spend some time with somebody, I'll make a bigger effort to spend some time with them. But definitely, it's not. It is genuine. It's not on purpose. I'm not that special.
That sounds something like an older man would say. Is it accidental or overdose?
All that, to be honest with
All
you.
of it.
I mean, just to name a few, definitely. I just went to my boy Teddy Ray's funeral. Very good comic. I've known him since
My
2010, 11.
condolences. My
Yeah,
condolences.
Then this guy Jack Knight, great comic. You could tell he died at 28. Future legend for sure. Um, Last year this guy Fuquan Johnson, this other guy Ricardo, Nathan Carthan. All these guys are good comics, good friends. Like I definitely, I broke bread with these people, and I mean I could keep going, but just keeping it real. Like I wish I had another day just to kick it with them, but they're gone. You know what I mean? So,
Aw.
yeah.
Should have answered that text message.
Oh my God, Dante. No, but I mean, people
Great
are
time.
busy here. They are busy doing their lives, and I noticed
They
like
should
when I
answer
was
mine.
I remember when I was in my early 20s, a lot of the guys like that, they all kind of have like car accidents or motorcycle accidents. So there's a lot of guys actually that I went to like high school that died like before even I turned 20. There was like a huge amount of boys that kind of died, and and now just life, But it's weird, yeah, it's weird. It's always weird to see when young people just passed away, and especially the Hollywood life with all those drugs and everything's so easy and accessible, and mental health crisis. So there's a lot of things that probably kind of come across people when they're going through those dark moments. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Not all of them were, on purpose or whatever. But definitely, I will admit some were drug related and some was suicide related. But regardless, I think the cool thing was during Chappelle's Hollywood Bowl performance. It was cool seeing them honor a couple of my friends, like just their face. These are people who I knew very personally on a realistic level. Just hanging out. Who we all want to perform at the Hollywood Bowl one day, and to see their face come up on that screen right before Dave come out was like, y'all. It shows you that the little things that we do here has an impact on the entire world. Yeah.
That is good.
That's amazing.
I wanted to, I want to let you go because we've gone an hour. I don't want to take up all your time. I was curious because you mentioned earlier about being a road comic. Like, how? Because when we go to a comedy show, we just see the comedian come out, they do their act, and we think everything's great. But how rigorous is it being on the road and then getting up the energy to like perform and do your act like fresh again for
Do you get jet lagged? And yeah, like because sometimes I feel like when I went to Vegas, Dante took me to Vegas. I drove there, and it's like I felt so tired. I imagine like a comedian. I mean, of course you take airplanes, but imagine just going to a long trip and then you have to like put up the facade, get all excited, pump yourself up to go on stage. How do you do that?
And where do you? Actually, I'll ask a follow up in a second. Go ahead. Sorry.
I love the term "use facade." I mean, you're absolutely right. It can be rigorous, and it could definitely take a tax on you physically and emotionally. But also, it's just part of the gig, and we're humans. You just like somebody who works a 9 to 5, or better yet, a 7 or a 6 a.m. thing. Having to get up. That same energy, that same mentality, where you're like, I have to muster up the energy. Because the first couple of times is easy, and I'll say even like the allure, people see the lights and see everything, and they're like, oh my God, I would love to do what you do. But sometimes you're literally not in the mood to do it, and you still gotta give 100% effort. But all that I think comes with time and just having, good material, good work ethic, and the love for it. I'm definitely, I'm definitely, even though I'm equal parts Hollywood comic and road comic, because obviously being at the store, the Laugh Factory, the Improv, having my name associated with that things. But then I'll go on a road bender where I'm just on the road for like 2 months, But then I also won't do it for a while too. So, but yeah, it's it don't have to be as dark as it sounds. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of stories, a lot of memories. But yeah, it's definitely hard. It's hard as it sounds. It's definitely hard as it sounds.
All right. Well, I want to just share your Instagram page real quick so people can see that. 1 second. I'll cut this part out. This is just a technical part.
Oh, look at that guy.
Okay,
Oh.
there you go. That's Jeremy right there. He's got
Jeremy.
You can get his comedy album.
Has millions of followers.
That's right. I'll Photoshop that.
5 million followers.
Sociopath is the name of your comedy album. It's what I thought when I first met you. Sociopath.
Context.
What is that? What is that name for? What is it called? The sociopath.
How'd you pick sociopath?
How'd you pick that?
You have to listen to it, but no. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. Just real quick. First of all, sociopath. If you look it up, the definition, like through Google or some mainstream source, it's kind of an outdated term. Basically, it's pretty much having a antisocial disorder or subcapacity, which is something somebody brag about. We brag about that these days,
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I kind of flipped the meaning to just kind of meaning like pretty much a take on society or kind of against society or societal standards and just kind of being the mirror reflection thing. That's it.
Nice.
I'm not going to bore you with this deep explanation.
Let's do another hour on the sociology and
the
definition.
But it gets attention though. Even my dad was like, oh, that title, I love that. What is that? He's like,
no, it's good. And here you can see a little bit of Jeremy on his Instagram page performing, and God, look at that hunky picture right in the.
Wow.
I just hope it says castable. That's all. I don't care.
Higher the sky.
That's awesome. And do you have a podcast? Is there anything else you want people to check out or
plugins?
Thank you. Splendid Radio on Farside TV. Every Tuesday. Every Tuesday. Yeah, is that tomorrow? Tomorrow, I think. When I'm not performing in Vegas, because tomorrow I'll be at the LA Comedy Club at the Stratosphere. I think it's 2 shows. No, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I think. Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday, what is that? August?
Oh, the 30th and 31st, yeah.
Oh shit! Now I have to put this video out today so that it.
or for people in the past, just know where to find him. He's going to be
on Tuesday. Last Tuesday he performed. Listen to his podcast. Download his comedy album Sociopath. Go and see him whenever he is performing. He is very funny live. We saw him do the hat trick at the Comedy Store. It was incredible.
You sure did, guys.
In all 3 rooms.
Wow. Yes.
Great material.
Oh my God! I think right before he performed in the other room, there was a show of Annie Letterman, and the girl was vomiting on the floor.
Yeah. Yo, I didn't see that, but I did hear about that. Yeah,
that was like vomit. I was like, but it's like running around, passing the vomit, going to another room, going upstairs, going downstairs. Yeah, this guy, it's almost like a kitchen in a way. Like it's going up and down. It's like going in and going down, going down. It's like crazy. The movement. It's like a theater. It's a theater thing almost.
Have you ever had anybody die in the audience?
Every show I kill.
They die laughing. I'm dying.
Do you think would a comedy club stop the show if an audience member, like someone sitting in the back, if they died during the show, would they stop the show or would they just cart the body out and then keep the show going?
Yeah, I mean, look, unless it's a show by what's his name? Travis Scott. Travis Scott was doing stand-up comedy. They would actually stop it. So, I mean, this guy's a professional, safe environment. It's OSHA regulated. You can't just kill a man.
I like the Travis Scott joke. I think you should develop on that one. That's a good one.
You're saying your dream is to host like the Comedy Astro World Festival.
Hey, I'll do it all, man. For the most part, I mean, I don't mind. I'll do the Oscars and take a slap by. That's my dream, actually, to get slapped by Will Smith or Jaden. Jaden, slap me so we can get I can write a book and make some money. Jada, slap me, Jada.
All right, Jeremy.
Real quick, I'd like to thank you guys for being dope. Not only dope podcast hosts, but dope audience members, because not only did I did the hat trick, you guys did the hat trick, and for audience members, that is a lot. So thank you guys.
We were pretty good. Thank you.
I was we were like honored to be there with you, Jeremy. See your process. And by the way, he didn't say the same jokes in every room. If people are thinking, he had different jokes for different rooms. And I was actually surprised. I was thinking like, oh, we're gonna see like you said same joke 3 times. It was not. He did different jokes. He was very well prepared. Was funny. Got laughs, very hard laughs in all the rooms. And yeah. That was very impressive. Jeremy is an incredible, talented, funny Aquarius guy. Your birthday, I remember you told me your birthday, January 20?
Yeah, January 20th, yeah. Cusp Aquarius.
It's his birthday.
That's my birthday too.
Do you remember?
Let's do it. Let's do a party.
You know, Jeremy.
I'm February 7. I'm Aquarius as well. So we're 3 Aquarius.
You know, January 20th, you know that's Hitler's birthday, don't you?
Is it really? We all 3 should do a party
That's
together.
His oldest joke. Dante tells that to every single person that he knows.
Although I did,
Inauguration Day, right? It's Inauguration Day,
yeah.
January 20.
I did try that joke. I tried that joke once with my brother, except I said like, oh, you know, your birthday is Jeffrey Epstein's birthday. And then when I looked it up, it's actually our birthday, Jeremy.
Hey man, look, let's have a party. Let's start an island and have a party there. But let's just make it overaged women.
We'll be roadcon.
Overage woman. Yes.
We'll be roadcon. Has anyone ever played Jeffrey Epstein's Island before? Is there a comedy club? Anyways.
All right.
Jeremy Scippio.
Jeremy, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It. And we'll have you on again, and we'll come see you soon.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Right. See you guys.
See ya.
All right.